Hey, let's do this. Hey, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Manufacturing Monday Motivation. And what a beautiful day it is. We're post Father's Day. Damon, how was your Father's Day?
It was awesome, Kurt. Awesome day.
What'd you do? Anything good?
We actually with the kids, we did Father's Day last week, and then with my wife's family yesterday. So I was around a ton of family yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
know your son took you treated you to your first Major League Baseball, or his first
Yes.
meeting of the Major League Baseball game at Seattle Mariners last Sunday. Great
Yeah.
Father's Day weekend. Well, get this. What a perfect timing for this one. So my daughter and I, we go on this wonderful little hike. I live in this great lake. And so we went at a state park. We did this great hike. And she takes me to a movie. What movie did she take me to?
Let me guess.
Top Gun.
Top Gun. So, guys, today I want to do a little intro to our dear friend, our guest. Man, is this an honor and privilege? My dear friend, Ron Higgs. Ron, happy Monday, my friend. How are you, dude?
I am great, Kurt. Damon, thank you both for inviting me onto the show. This is going to be a fun conversation. I always have fun when I'm chatting with either of you guys. And now both of you, wow, this is going to be awesome.
So, Damon, it's a little tough because when you say like Top Gun movie, you're talking to a guy like Ron Higgs. He's got that $1 million smile. He's got that good looks. And then he was God bless you, Ron, served our country proudly in the Navy aviator. You had a great career in manufacturing, L3, Boeing. You're a fractional COO. You're a practitioner on EOS. We have so much to discuss. I want to go back in time a little bit. Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you're a Jersey guy. Do I have that right? Are you Jersey?
Yes, I am from New Jersey, Camden, New Jersey.
I remember that. I remember you're a Jersey guy. So you and I met a while back. And so my first question for you today, Ron Higgs, as that young man growing up in New Jersey, who was your hero growing up in Camden, New Jersey? That led you to this amazing, incredible, wonderful career. Share with us one of the heroes that really kind of shaped your life as a young man growing up in New Jersey?
Well, that's tough to answer, and I tell you why. I grew up in a single parent home, right? And so we had, we had the communities and people. I think were a lot closer. When I was growing up, and we have this family friend. When you have these family friends and you call them uncle, they're not related.
Yeah.
Right. So I had this Uncle Still, this guy's name, right? He was a great guy. He would help my mom with all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, she's a single parent. We were friends with their family. I have a younger brother. I don't have any older brothers, but his kids, his two boys were older than me. You know what I mean? And those are the guys that I looked up to, kind of as older brothers. But my Uncle Still was the man. I mean, he was just the guy, could do anything. He could fix anything. I mean, if something caught on fire, he would probably finish his sentence and look at me and goes, I'm going to go put that fire out. And I'll put that right. And he was just that kind of guy. It was pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. And what I love about that, God bless Uncle Still. So shout out to your Uncle Still. And, on Father's Day, it's not just about the fathers, it's the uncles, it's those mentors, folks that really help shape your life, as young people, maybe coaches, football coach, baseball coach, whatever that might have been. And there's so many roles that you can play in that Father's Day role. So, man, thanks for sharing that, Ron. That was a great, great story.
Yeah. And you guys may know, I don't have any kids of my own, right? But I've been with my wife for a while, and she has too. And I'd like to think I've had some impact on their lives.
Ron, I'm sure you've impacted thousands of lives. So let's dig into this. So as a young man, you go into the Navy. Talk a little bit, and you were a naval aviator. And Ron, just so you know, so your ears are always ringing, and ironically, right in your backyard. So I did a LinkedIn workshop at Temple University last Wednesday, and every single workshop, Damon, you know this, every LinkedIn workshop we do, whose profile do I always feature? Ron Higgs, man. Now, I know now you went and changed that banner on me, but your old banner, you have that fighter jet. Arrow pointing at yourself, that fighter jet.
Yeah,
that was so cool, dude. Share a little bit, like what was the decision process of going into the service, and then you made it a career. Talk a little bit about your career there.
Well, I'll have to go back up just a little bit, right? Because again, Camden, New Jersey, home. There's a lot of people who I grew up with who were sort of into bad things, right? And so I stepped down that road briefly and turned around and went, no, this isn't really what I want to do. And believe it or not, I watched a lot of TV because my mom worked 2 jobs, right? So the TV was the babysitter for me and my brother. And I was a Star Trek geek, right? So I look at this, I was like, I want to go into space. I want to become an astronaut, all of this stuff. So I actually credit the library system with pointing me in the right direction, because I used to have my mom drop me off at the library on Saturday. Now, the mall, the library was across the street from the mall, right? So I would go spend a few minutes in the mall after the library, but I would use the library to go, hey, let me figure out what I want to do. I like airplanes, right? Cool. And then I saw this picture of the airplane flying off of the ship, and I went, now that's cool, right? I mean, anybody can land an airplane on the ground. So let me find out about this. So again, I'd go to the library and I'd read atlases and encyclopedias. I would literally just pick up an encyclopedia, open it, whichever one, then I'd look up countries. I'd look up the country. Then I'd go get an atlas and figure out where the country is and all this stuff. And I go, man, how can I go visit all these places? How can I do this? Right. And it was like the Navy, boom. Right. So that's where I decided. And then I also wanted to be an astronaut. So I did the research and figured out what that path was. Oh, hey, I can go to the Naval Academy. I could join the Navy. I could become a test pilot, and I could, that I could be an astronaut. And that's sort of where it started. Now, I was lucky enough to be one of those people that things came easily to me in school, especially math, right? So I was, I did well. I was lucky enough to do well in school, and that opened the doors to take me sort of where I wanted to go.
That's awesome. So when you slide into the Navy, when you go to the Navy, like what, walk us through that process of like, what did it take for you to become that, naval aviator?
Well, I will say, so getting to the Naval Academy, again, just going to the Naval Academy, you need a congressional appointment to go to the Naval Academy. So it kind of starts with, okay, hey, I have to go through this process, and wow. And then figuring out what you need to do. You need a balance of sports, academics, community service, all sorts of stuff. And I look now at the people who go in, it's like, wow, I'm amazed I got in, right? Yeah. So I go through the Naval Academy, right? And then going through the Naval Academy, they just don't hand out slots to wherever you want to go. You kind of have to earn what it is you want to go do. So at some point you have to figure out, oh, do I want to be a Marine? Do I want to fly planes? Do I want to drive submarines? Do I want to drive ships? Whatever. So you get to do that. So I chose aviation. I went to flight training and ended up in a squadron. I did all that. I applied to the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School and luckily got accepted there. And I went through test pilot school, and then I was lucky. And then I did some flight testing. And then I was lucky enough to be asked to come back to be a flight instructor at test pilot school. So that was pretty cool. And I got to fly throughout my time in test pilot school, both as a student and instructor. I got to fly, 30 or so different types of aircraft, a glider, if you're familiar, a de Havilland Beaver, which is a propeller airplane that, on airplanes on floats, and high performance jets, F-16s. And I actually got to fly for an evaluation exercise. I got to fly a B-25, a real B-25. I mean, no kidding. That was probably the highlight of my career. I mean, in spite of, getting to fly F-18s, F-14s, and all sorts of things like that. But that B-25 flight, that was probably the coolest thing I'd ever done.
Yeah. That's incredible.
So that was the path to become an astronaut. And I actually applied to it. So my couple of my friends, my colleagues, people who I shared offices with, I have been through the astronaut program. Some of them are still astronauts right now and spending time on the space station. I was in test pilot school with Scott and Mark Kelly, whose names you probably remember. Sunny Williams is a classmate of mine. She is the lady with the most time in space. She spent a long time on the space station. And these are people that I shared offices with. Wow. So I put in my application, and I got accepted by the Navy as an astronaut candidate. So the Navy said, hey, we're going to send Ron to NASA as one of our candidates. And then I got to NASA, and I got medically disqualified for NASA. So it was, it was a heart-wrenching moment for me at the time. But if I think back to where I started, right, as a kid watching Star Trek, to the point where I still have now, I have a rejection letter from NASA for this thing. I mean, I think I got as close as I possibly could, and through no fault of my own, wasn't able to move forward with that.
We've talked about this before, Ron, and I'm just flabbergasted every time I think of this. When you think of you as a kid sitting in the library, figuring this out, right, plotting your path to become an astronaut, and then doing it, man, that is just so incredibly cool. I mean, lots of people fumble their way through, right?
Yeah.
But hell, I didn't know until I was in college what I was going to do. And you're sitting here saying, "Hey, I'm going to be an astronaut. I want to visit these places. I got to go through the Navy into a test pilot." And it's incredible, man.
Well, there's a lot of luck involved in that too. I mean, mind you, so a lot of luck, and like I said, I got as close as I could, and the journey was great, and all those things that I've done, they're great places to be from. The Naval Academy is a great place to be from.
Yeah.
The U.S. Naval Test Pilot School is a great place to be from, and the relationships that I forged in the Navy and along the way have been more meaningful than anything. So my best friend today is my plebe year roommate from the Naval Academy. So we've known each other for, let's say more than 20 years.
Just a few. So, and you know what? And I'm dropping a note to Tom Cruise, Ron, because the next Top Gun, you need to be in it, man. Just, you
need me advising him.
You need to be advising these guys, right?
I think I'm older than even the admirals that they produced that they had in the movie. So my time is come and gone, but it's always cool to watch. So I watched it, and it was fantastic. Brought back a lot of memories. It's a movie, far-fetched but entertaining. Yep. And it was the flying scenes, though, phenomenal. So if you, in fact, my wife wants to go back and see it in IMAX, because we didn't see it. We saw it in the movies, but not in IMAX. Yeah. He wants to go back and see it in IMAX.
Yeah. Wow. So I got a question. I just never thought to ask you this before. Yeah. So you've actually then passed out from G-forces in a plane before, haven't you?
I have not passed out. I have taken up to 9.5 G's in an F-16 and not passed out.
And not passed out. So you're good.
I've never passed out due to G's. I've come close. I've got, and I think they pretty accurately depicted this in the movie. First thing happens, you get black and white vision. Then it goes tunnel vision. You get tunnel vision. So I've had black and white and tunnel vision, but I've managed to, get myself out of it, recover. But you know what? I have the right body type for pulling G's, right? I'm short and wide. And wide shoulders, and the tall, lanky guys are the ones that have to work a little harder with the G's. But I have the right height.
Wow. 9.5, man.
9.5. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was an adventure. I had a demo flight in an F-16 with an Air Force guy, and that airplane is capable of that. And he's like, "What do you want to do?" It's like, "I want to pull 9 G's." He goes, "Oh man, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." So that's what we did. It was cool.
Do you miss it, Ron? Do you miss
sometimes I tell you, after watching the movie Top Gun, I watched some of the flying scenes, and they brought back a lot of memories. There was particularly the one where, they showed him going off the catapult and the camera's sort of facing backwards. And I remember those days of going the catapult. I wish they would have showed a night catapult shot, because then it goes from fun to, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this in the same day kind of thing. Because at night, it's a totally different ballgame.
Oh, I bet.
And how, man, and we have so much to cover. It's my last question here. How about like the parachuting, ejection? Like, what did you experience many of those?
No, I have an equal number of takeoffs and landings, but we during our training, we have some pretty intense training for flight school. And that training, I think you remember me. I was contributing author of a book called The Winner's Mindset, and my chapter was called "The Mindset Shaped by Naval Aviation." And a lot of that training, I think back to that training, because that training prepares you for when things go wrong, right? So that training was tough, but necessary. right? But luckily, I didn't have to. Actually, I'll give you one example where I had to engage my training. I think you may have seen in some movie somewhere where you put people in the altitude chamber, right? Because if air is thinner up at altitude, so you can't breathe. So if you pass out, and they put you through that so that you know what your symptoms are of hypoxia, because different symptoms happen to different people at different time. Your fingers turn blue, you may get a little lightheaded, but everybody's a little bit different. So for you to recognize your own symptoms of hypoxia is important. So I was on a flight in test pilot school as students with another guy, and I was like, man, I'm feeling hypoxic. I need you to descend. So we descended below 10,000 feet where, you don't need oxygen. And so I started checking all my gear. And as it turns out, my oxygen hose at one point was unplugged.
Whoa.
So that would have, I could have potentially passed out, right? And I was in the back, he was in the front. He probably wouldn't have known unless, he was like, hey, you, right. Had he not heard from me, he's like, hey, I'm not hearing from the guy in the back seat. I need to do something. So, I mean, that's just one example of how that training really comes into play. Because if you're in an airplane by yourself, and that happens, different ballgame. I mean, you saw that in the movie where that one guy passed out. Anyway, but he passed out from G's, not from hypoxia. But that training is really important, and it comes back to you. It really comes back to you, no matter how long ago it was.
Wow! Oh my man, this is.
I know.
All right, let's slide in. So, Ron, thank you for your service to our country. What an amazing life that you've lived, the experiences that you have. Thank you for sharing those. I know we've got to talk more. We'll have you back again and talk more. We have more to cover. Let's slide into the rest. Let's not the rest, but we'll get into next steps of your career. So you leave, serving our country, and you decide to get into manufacturing. Is that correct? I saw, you have L3, Boeing. Talk a little bit.
I'll tell you what the path was. And first, it was a privilege and an honor for me to serve my country. I couldn't think of a better career path. As far as manufacturing goes, I became in my career in the Navy, I became an aerospace engineering duty officer. So what that meant is program management. I went into program management and acquisition, and that was working directly with defense contractors on naval aviation programs. So I managed several programs in different facets of naval aviation. And then in one program, I was actually a spacecraft manager for a satellite program. And I sat on the launch console, and I gave the final spacecraft go before launch. So, it's another great thing about the military is you can do all sorts of things, right? So I found myself, sitting on a launch console, launching a satellite into space, which I thought was pretty cool.
Wow.
But my job in building that satellite, I was involved from the programmatic side in the integration and test. And I was also sort of the interface between the primary interface between the Navy and all of the primary contractor and all of the subcontractors. And we had about 100 vendors for the satellite. So again, manufacturing on that scale. As far as the naval aviation programs, manufacturing equipment that goes on Navy airplanes, right? So some of them, not large numbers of widgets, right? But fairly large. So from the engineering side, so I got involved in manufacturing and production while I was still in the Navy.
Okay. All right. And one thing I didn't ask you, what was your call name? Like Maverick?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I would challenge you. I never had a call sign, and no, I'm not making this up because my wife is still on me to this day. It's like, you had a call sign. You're just not telling me. I challenge you to go find someone out there that knows a call sign I had. Now, there are a couple that folks attempted, but they never caught, right? Higgy. Right. I mean, hey, that's not all that original, right?
Yeah.
So your call sign is some aberration of your name, some physical abnormality or something you did. And the more you don't like it, the more it sticks. So
that's
I was lucky enough never to have one. Or maybe not lucky enough. Maybe they didn't like me enough to give me one, but I just made it through without getting one.
We'll go with Hollywood good looks. How's that? So
there you go.
That's mine and Damon's call name for you from now on. So we'll go with that.
All right.
So
right now and down.
let's slide into this. So you found yourself at Boeing. What was that experience like? Again, making that transition.
I'll tell you what led me there. So first, I got out of the Navy. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I was like, well, I've done aerospace and defense, and I've done this for a long time, and maybe I want to see something else, right? But where I started with a company as a consultant. And I was a senior system. They placed me at Boeing at a contractor as a senior systems engineer. And I worked on the 787 prior to first flight, right? So while I was in the Navy, I actually attended the Naval Postgraduate School and got a master's degree in systems engineering, nice. Right? So, and that prepared me for my, to lead engineering teams and to lead programs and things like that. So I started there. I spent a couple years in that job. And then I went to L3 Communications at the time. Now it's L3 Harris. And I did sales and business development. And that for me was, okay, hey, sales and business development, that's a good place to be if I want to change industries. Right. And so I learned about, so the division that I worked for, we made electro-optic and infrared cameras. And I sold them back to the military and to the police. And I used to, because I operated those systems on high performance aircraft in the Navy, right? I trained the police on how to use those infrared cameras that they have on police helicopters. So I sold them and trained them on how to use it, which I thought was interesting. But I did that, and I figured, I was like, I don't think I want to do sales and business development for this long. Ended up getting an opportunity at Boeing to fly. So I worked at flight operations at Boeing, and I flew the P-8 Poseidon, which is a submarine hunter built on a 737 platform.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
737. So I got to fly those airplanes on their first flights out of the factory. And then we were still working on that airplane. It wasn't yet ready for the Navy. So we were making, we were doing all the flight testing and things to get it ready for the Navy. So I got to do a couple of interesting things with that airplane. So it's a 737, but it has weapons on it. It has missiles and bombs on it. So I got to drop, shoot missiles and drop bombs and do sorts of all these interesting things from a 737 that's been modified as a military airplane.
And, from a commercial aircraft, which is kind of great.
And one of the things in the flight test brochure that this is not in the flight test brochure. So we had to do extreme weather testing on the aircraft. So they sent us to Florida. They put the aircraft in the chamber, and it goes to minus 40 degrees. You have to make sure that the airplane still operates and does everything, starts, and all the things turn on at minus 40. So I'm basically in a parka going out to the airplane, and it's in a hangar, and the hangar is specially configured so we can start the airplane and run the engines while it's in the hangar. Right. And it's minus 40 degrees. And here we are in this airplane going, man, this is not in the brochure because we are freezing. I mean, it's cold. And so we had to make sure the airplane would, everything would happen the way it's supposed to. And, we have fluorescent lights in the airplane, and guess what? They don't work at minus 40 degrees. Yeah. So we switched those out to LED. Then the other side of that is the next day, now we're doing it at 115 degrees for the testing. So a lot of flight test stuff. So I taking up too much time with that.
No. That's
after that, I left flight operations and went and became the delivery manager for the P-8 for the Navy. So then I was at Boeing all of a sudden in charge of getting all those airplanes delivered and turned over to the Navy. So it was a big change. I mean, lots of people, lots of moving parts, lots of issues. And so and then I ended up getting promoted out of that job. And I headed a large systems engineering group at Boeing. And that's when I decided that I wanted to take my career in another direction. So I had decided to leave corporate America and become an independent consultant. And I worked for a few startups along the way, which kind of led me to where I am now, right? So I started off doing executive coaching, I called myself a leadership consultant. So leadership development, some executive coaching, but you know how it is when you start. I was taking anything that I could get. Anything that anybody would pay me for. So I've done quite a few different things, quite a few startups. And then I landed as a COO of a small company in January of 2020. And in April of 2020, I got laid off due to COVID. But I thought that I really like this COO thing, because from a systems engineering background, I looked at the company as a system and looked at all the operating functions of the business as a system, and how do all of these work together to move the system and our company forward, and sort of found my home. So I rebranded myself as a fractional COO, and I've been doing that since.
Man, that is so. Damon, one thing with these programs, sometimes I feel like a little bit of an underachiever when I talk.
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
like Ron really set the bar so high. I feel like,
it hits hard here.
Man, what have I done with my career? So anyway, Ron,
not at all. Hey, believe me, there's been there's been a lot of work and setbacks along the way.
Man, I tell you, you are such my respect and admiration for you, Ron, is just off the charts. You're just such a blessing. Let's slide in here. So you're a fractional COO. Absolutely love that. You and I met thanks to my dear friend, this guy over here, this handsome guy over here. And COVID hits, and we're getting those exit your way. Boy, Damon, you were just a saving grace when COVID hit. You brought a great group of people together. And Ron, I'll tell you, I met amazing folks, and one of them, of course, was being you. And you are an expert at EOS. We're going to talk a little bit about predictable success, but just share with folks like this whole, EOS is new to somebody. Share a little bit about what is EOS and how do you tackle that, and how do you help your clients with that process?
Well, I discovered EOS a while back. And when I started my business and I was looking for business systems and just looking for other things, and what stood out to me about EOS is the first thing that they do at EOS is they have you take a test, for your leadership style. And they separate people into two categories: visionary and integrator. Visionaries are people who start businesses, people with all the ideas, right? I mean, they just have brilliant ideas, and they like to go and talk about their ideas and sell things and everything else. Integrators are the people that can make those ideas happen. Very rarely are there people that can do both, right? So it's this visionary integrator duo, two people that you need the balance of those two people to take any organization forward. And then there are other things about EOS that I really like too, right? EOS, it really solidifies, hey, what is it you're doing? It forces you to figure out what your mission is, what your real mission is, and to live it. And then there's another part, and there are quite a few parts of it. I don't want to go all over it here, but one thing is the level 10 meeting. So there's a meeting structure. And if you think, some people think meetings just sit around and they don't get anything done, because visionaries consider meetings as a place to just talk about their ideas, right? There's an agenda. Nah, we don't need an agenda. We're just going to talk, right? And there's some people that come to meetings. It's like, okay, here's the agenda. Here's what we need to get done, right? So this L10 meeting, I'm a really big fan of it, because the structure of it, every meeting is very, very useful. Even people who hate meetings like those L10s, because you get stuff done. It's not a waste of your time. And you just don't sit around and talk about the issues that you have at the company. You actually use those meetings to solve them. You prioritize those issues and solve them right there. So you walk away from every meeting with having at least solved something, which is good.
Right. Well, that's a powerful solution.
So for that reason, I really like it. And so what I do is a fractional integrator, fractional EOS integrator, fractional COO. There's a whole lot of overlap, right? Is to find a visionary out there that doesn't have that balance of an integrator. And you guys could probably think of people now that are running companies that are 100% visionary. They just have a million ideas and nobody to bounce those ideas off of, nobody to look at them and say, no, that's not going to work, and why. Or, hey, okay, you just gave me 10 ideas. Let's prioritize all 10 of them, right? And then let's try to get to at least 3 of them, right? Which ones? And so you provide, as a fractional integrator, that balance to the visionary to help them move their companies forward. So I work with a group of fractional integrators. So if it turns out, because we all know you got to find the right match for the person for you to help, right? So I work with a group of fractional integrators. And if I find someone in need of a fractional integrator, I can find them the right match and the right person to be that integrator.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. So anybody out there, the entrepreneur that has that dream, the visionary, as you just said, and they're like, man, I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it, but boy, I need some support. You, my friend, are a dream supporter where you help those entrepreneurs bring those dreams to life with the implementation and execution and moving forward. And what I love is like, you're big on the training side to help his folks, how, if the folks are, maybe there's a disconnect with that entrepreneur and the dream and the folks that are going to be implementing the actual tactics, you play like a nice bridge or interpreter even to help make that training come true. Is that my kind of
so yes, indeed, two ways, right? Help the visionary really communicate that vision to everyone. Yep. Help everyone understand that vision, but it's also helping the visionary in communicating that vision, right? And then helping everybody else understand it, right? So both ways. And then really what you want to do too, a lot of visionaries set up their companies, and I know you guys have seen this. Damon, I know you have specifically since you're buying and selling companies, right? You've got a visionary who is integral to every decision in the business. The visionary has put him or herself in the middle of everything so that no decisions can be made, nothing can be done without them around, right? So I want to get them out of that business, right? Start working on your business instead of in it, right? So let's start figuring out what the appropriate level where decisions can be made so that you don't have to make everyone, and then start empowering people to make it. And I'll give you an example. So I was a COO of a small company about a year ago, and we were running some changes to our proposal process, right? And so I just looked at the account manager and said, hey, guess what? Now you can sign off on change orders. I'm empowering you to sign off on the change order. So if somebody's got a change order, you don't have to come all the way up to me, and you don't have to find me and run it all the way up to change to do it. You can approve it, disapprove, you can sign it, and that'll be fine. And if you're not comfortable with it, just come to me for the first couple, but right now you got it, right? And that really changed the level. That's just a small example at the level in changing where decisions are being made to help remove the most senior executive, CEO, whatever, from every decision in the company, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Ron, let's do this. I know first off, thank you. What a gift this has been today. What great timing, man. Like you just had it so fresh. I just caught that movie, but let's sign into this. I know you're a busy man and we need to get wrapped up soon. Last question for you. Predictable success. You and I had a phenomenal conversation earlier this year about predictable success. I've been following Les McEwen. Am I saying that?
Yeah.
Well, Les McEwen, I found, I think he stumbled on my radar like 10 years ago. I love his process and that predictable success. Talk a little bit. I know you've taken this on full throttle. Talk a little bit about that predictable success process that you're implementing.
Yeah, I will. So I came across predictable success right around the beginning of the year. And I also, less like a lot of other professionals are out there, he can't do it all himself. So he's figuring out, hey, how do I create a group of predictables? I can license my content, create a group of predictable success practitioners that can go out and spread the word and, extend the network of predictable success practitioners. So I jumped on board, been trained by Les. To give the predictable success keynote, but I will tell you, predictable success, I really like the idea because I found it to be very intuitive. So the basic premise is that companies go through stages, 7 stages of growth and decline, right? And there's actual decline, right? And so the pinnacle of this is called predictable success, and then companies start to decline. The predictable success part is where the companies is the most scalable. So that means the company's running like a well-oiled machine, right? Yeah. The decisions are being made at the right places, and the most senior executive, again, is not in the middle of every decision. And just as a little preview to it, you've got these stages that I talked about. The first stage is early struggle. Again, right? Early struggle just means that the company starts and the company is trying to find a profitable and sustainable market before whatever seed capital they have runs out, right? That makes sense, right? I mean, again, it's just, to me, it's, wow, this is totally intuitive. It just makes sense. The next stage where the company is in fun, he calls that stage fun because, hey, now they're generating revenue, right? So they're generating revenue continues to grow. And They're just out there doing it. They're making money. They're saying yes to everything. They're pivoting. We've all been there. I've been there, right? Where you say yes to everything. Hey, Ron, can you come and do this? Absolutely, I can. Then you walk away from that conversation going, man, how am I going to do that? Right. And then you figure out and do it. Every company has been in that spot, right? So that's what he calls fun. And then interestingly enough, the next stage is when companies start to get really complex. So if you've got 5 people and you're having fun and things are going really, really, really well, right? All of a sudden you have to hire. All of a sudden now you have 25 people. Yeah. Right. Now things are starting to get more complex and things start to get slow down, right? You start making mistakes. There's a little bit of employee churn. You said, hey, didn't we make the decision to do X last week and it's still not done? Why not? Right. So they're running into this stage called whitewater. Every company sees it, right? And it's because back in fun, the doers and deciders are the same people, right? When you get into whitewater, the doers and deciders are different groups of people. So the deciders is the leadership team and the doers are all these others. So you have to flow that information down to people. Everybody may not be aligned. Everybody may not understand the vision, and things don't happen quickly. So you can make decisions quickly, but you can't implement them. You end up implementing them very slowly. And that whole thing's called whitewater. So I look for companies that are in whitewater, right? And I won't go through the rest of it, but the next stage after whitewater is that stage called predictable success. Is really they kind of figured everything out. And then the next part of the second component of predictable success is the types of leadership styles and the types of people. So in EOS, we talked about integrators and visionaries, right? In predictable success, there are visionaries, which is the same. Then you have operators, who are people who just know how to get stuff done. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Then you have processors. Processors are people who like to set up systems and processes, right? Which you need at some point. But all of those people have different motivations and different perspectives, right? So the visionary has the 30,000 foot level. The operator is right on the ground getting stuff done. And the processor is kind of working below decks on the processes, right? Unseen. They all have different motivations. So visionary starts things, operator finishes things, and the processor sustains things. You would think that that's a good match, but in reality, there's conflict between those types of people because they just all have different perspectives and they're wired differently. So it takes the introduction of someone called a synergist, which I am, by the way, right? Which to come in and have all of those folks understand the different perspectives of each other and to get them all working together. And that's basically, so you need a mix of all 4 of those styles in order to enter and stay into predictable success. So the first thing is getting people to figure out, hey, what stage is your company in? And then let's look at the profiles of the leadership team to see where you are. It just as a quick example, if you're in early struggle and you have a visionary, well, what happens if you add another visionary? Oh. Right? So that's why it's kind of important to understand, right? So you need an operator. You need somebody who knows how to get stuff done. And so throughout the whole life cycle, figuring out what types of people to introduce to the company at the right time based on what stage they're in. Because again, if you're an early struggler and you introduce a processor, well, you don't need strict processes and systems when you only have 5 people, right? That can actually slow you down to set you back, right? So you just have to figure out what type of person to add to the mix and when.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's a basic view of predictable success, but I am happy to come out to if anyone's interested in a predictable success overview, reach out and contact me and I'm happy to provide it.
Yeah, because this is the thing too, is we tend to like to hire people that are similar to us in personalities and stuff. So a visionary sitting there going, man, Demon's a great guy. He would do it. And then he's hiring another visionary. And then we wonder 6 months down the road, why the hell we're not getting anything done. Yeah. We're talking about all these great ideas, but they're not getting implemented. And you make such a great point that you got to get the right people at the right time.
Well, diversity of thought and perspective really is what leads to better problem solving, right?
Yeah. There you go.
Absolutely. Well, man, I wish I would love to keep just keep this ball rolling right now, Ron. This is just such a deep dive conversation. We've got to have you back. I'd love to leave off, right where we are and just continue this. My, and as we talked earlier before in the program, that diversity is so critical to companies and manufacturers out there. We were talking real quick. Today's a federal holiday with Juneteenth. Great day to celebrate our country's history on something that's been, as using your words, way overdue. So these are tactics and strategies that you can apply to your business today. So Ron, I'm going to ask you one quick last question. I promise I said that last time. One quick last question. First off, I want to thank you. Thank you guys. Connect with Ron on LinkedIn, number one.
Yeah, please reach out to connect.
Please connect with Ron if you want to learn more about his amazing track record and history, serving our country. Thank you, Ron. You can talk to him. You can geek out about some Navy conversation. You can get some tips from Top Gun, like, hey, what about this scene or this scene? But most importantly, you can talk about your business on predictable success, on EOS, all these things that Ron can help you with. I'll tell you, Damon, when you think of Ron Higgs, integrity, just everything is just so admirable of what he does. Trust, honesty, impeccable, that radiant smile. Just what a great dude. Ron, my last question for you today. You're such an inspiration to so many. Who inspires you today? Who's your inspiration? You shared that Uncle Still was your hero growing up. Who's your inspiration today?
Well, I'm just going to go with Mom. Right. Because, I saw my mom raise two kids in a single parent home. Right. And, my mom taught me everything that I know, right, about integrity and working hard and things like that. So I'll just say, my mom worked two jobs. Right. So she would come home, she'd be home for like an hour and then go work at night. But it was my brother and I's job to kind of get her fed and out the door. Right. So we cooked, cleaned, we'd have dinner ready for her. She was a medical assistant, so she wore the white uniform. We had to have all those ironed and ready to go for her. So we came in, we got her fed, and then back out the door. So we all worked together. And she didn't, she just looked at me and said, I was 12 years old. And she said, I can't do this by myself. I need your help. Right. And I can't afford to ask you more than once to do anything. Right. So I just need you to do it. Right. And then I got to the point where she didn't even ask me and I did it. Right. She never asked me to take out the trash. I just took it out. Yeah. Right. And that was instilled in me. Right. So that's mom. Mom is it, man.
Well, and what's your mom's name?
Awesome.
Paula. Yeah. Paula. Well, hey, man, God bless Paula. So, Ron, I know you're busy. You need to run. Board trustee at the King County Library System, I believe. Do I have that correct? I want to make sure I threw that out there. President of the board. So, guys, Ron, you, in all sincerity, you are a hero, my friend. You make everybody around you better. You're a blessing. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join Damon and myself today. We appreciate your friendship. We appreciate everything that you do. We need to have you back. We want to geek out even further on predictable success with Ron Higgs. So we'll get that set up with you.
Anytime. And thank you, gentlemen, for providing me with the platform and the opportunity. I will look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Dude, you're a blessing. So, Damon, thank you, brother. I appreciate you for making these awesome interviews possible. So, guys, we wish you an amazing, incredible week. Go out there, just spreading your awesomeness, just like our friend Ron Higgs. And we will see you this Friday. We have a really good program coming up this Friday. You'll catch Damon on Faces of Business on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. And Damon, we're back here Friday at 10:32 Pacific. So, guys, have a great week. Ron, hang out 1 second, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.